Welcome to another edition of Wonderful Wednesdays with Wendy. I am your host, Wendy Wotecki, the Parent Support Connector at Mission Empower. We are a federally funded nonprofit. We are serving as Erie County's Community Parent Resource Center. Part of our job is to bring all the information we can to our families and parents about tips and topics that they are interested in. And today we have Tiana Martinez from Harborcreek Youth Services to tell us about what they do over there. So good afternoon, Tiana.
Good afternoon, Wendy. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good on this Wednesday.
Yes, so as you can tell, we are still in a COVID world. So Tiana and I are coming to you from our homes. So please forgive any children, pets, or noises because this is real life. So Tiana, I am so curious to hear about all of the things that Harborcreek Youth Services do. What are you guys about? Well, can you tell me?
Okay, I am definitely going to try because we do a whole lot. When people hear the word or hear the name Harborcreek Youth Services, they usually think of the heart of our organization, which is our residential program. But we are so much more than that. We also have MST, or Multisystem Therapy, which is in-home intensive therapy. And then we also have my program, which is Community Residential Rehabilitation. Yes, that is a mouthful, but that's CRR Host Home Program. And that is a 24-hour structured therapeutic foster care program, specifically for youth who are not ready to transition home after leaving RTF, or for younger kids who we don't want to put into an RTF or a residential facility. They would come to our program to learn some of the coping skills and then meet with psychiatrists and all of those things. And so Harborcreek, by having all three programs, your residential, your MST, and the CRR, which is community programs, kind of encompasses the kids of Erie County and allows them to be able to go through all programs.
Oh my goodness gracious. So I'm already, light bulbs are going off in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I know families that probably could have used that information to be able to make better choices for their children. So when it comes to the CRR, explain to me your programming a little bit more in more detail.
Okay, all right. CRR, which is once again, it's community residential rehabilitation. And it really is giving kids the ability to live in a home setting, but learn some of the skills. We work with boys and girls, ages, we've done as young as 3 up to age 18. All of the kids in our program, though, they have a diagnosis and may have behaviors that go along with the diagnosis, but then they're placed in homes with specially trained foster parents. So our therapeutic foster parents, or we call them host home parents, go through extensive training to be able to work with the kids that eventually join their home. We also have, there is a psychiatric component where they meet with our psychiatrist for their monthly med management. And then there's a therapy component where the therapist does in-home individual therapy and then also does family therapy with that youth and their discharge resource.
Okay, so I'm super curious about this now. So the child, instead of being in residential where they're in a group home, they're actually with a therapeutic foster family. So they're getting that family environment with like a male role model, a female role model. Is there siblings potentially involved?
There are potential siblings, yes. But we actually, we have homes that have a male and female component, like both parents, but we also have single parent homes. Because what we kind of construct is in addition, like to creating some of that normalcy around them, because when they go home, they may be going to a single parent home. So it may help them to better learn how to adapt in a therapeutic single family home and transitioning back to their single family home.
That's really intriguing to me. And so how long is, or can you even say, how long is an average stay in one of these therapeutic foster homes?
The average stay is about 6 to 9 months. because our goal really is to bring them in, help them build up some of the coping skills, help transition some of the skills we teach our host home parents to the bio parents, and then transition that youth back down. So our goal is to move them from our higher level of care to a lower level of care.
Okay, now is there great care taken into school districts? So are you guys mindful of where the homes are versus school district, or do you not mind pulling them out and sending them to a new school district? Or is it where the therapy is most of the work and they're only having to do like an hour of class and they can do it synchronously online, or how do they handle that component?
We actually try to keep them, if possible, like in their homeschool environment, because we want to keep as much consistency as possible. The thing is, when they come, like by the time a youth comes to our program, on average, we're their third placement. And so they've already been through multiple homes by the time they get to our program. But if we have a home in their school district, we would like try to match them with that specific home, because we do a big piece of maintaining how well the kids are able to do is our matching process. But what we would like to do is, once again, keep them in the home in the district. And if we can't, it just kind of depends on what's going on with that youth, because depending on their needs, that also may determine what type of school placement they need.
Right. Okay. So also, I know that you do this matching process, but how do you find these therapeutic foster homes? Are you involved in that process?
Yes. Actually, because I have a very small staff. So I am the one who goes out and meets and does works with the families to complete their initial studies. And so it really is just kind of like recruiting for traditional foster homes. We do a lot of things on Facebook. Prior to COVID, we were at a lot of different community events, just getting the word out, because even like the majority of my career, almost 7 years here at Harborcreek, the beginning was letting everybody know that we had a foster care program. Because there are still times where people are saying, well, wait, you have foster care? It's like, well, not only do you have foster care, we have a higher level of foster care with parents who are trained to work with higher level kids.
Is there additional training that goes along with being that therapeutic level of care as a family? So what does that look like compared to your normal FACT classes that allow you to become a foster parent? Like, what's the additional layer?
Right. So for traditional foster parents, their pre-service is 24 hours. And so that's through what they, I believe, used to be called FACT. I'm not sure what it's called now because we don't use that one. Plus then they have to CPR and things like those. So for them, it's 24 hours pre-service and then 6 hours per year of however they decide to get in their training time. For our parents, they start with at least 40 hours of pre-service because they actually become certified as a treatment parent, and they go through it's Presley Ridge Treatment Foster Parent Planning. And so they go through that. So that's actually 36 hours. And then on top of that, they have in-person training on med logs, fire safety. So they put out fires. We offer our own CPR there, and then over basic sanctuary and trauma pieces. And then annually, the primary parent has 24 hours of training. And then if there is a husband or a second parent in the home, that person has to have 12 hours annually. Wow,
that actually sounds really, really good. I'm glad to hear that you're making sure that extra layers of training are involved, because having a special person in my own home, you don't come with the knowledge that you need. And when you have a seamless blend between therapy and the therapeutic terminology that you're working on with your team, and then if it's transferring and it's at home and it's the same through the whole system, through your whole day, that everybody's talking the same language, the same way, the same structure, the same goal setting, the same way of tracking your positives and negatives, that is essential to hopefully, bring a child through the process that they're going through. I can only imagine.
Right, to bringing them through, but also equipping them with the ability to recall those skills in the future. Because once again, our goal isn't to move towards termination with the kids in our program. Our goal is to help equip them with the skills so that they have the ability to be okay when they leave.
Right, and then you also work with the family, right?
Yes, yeah, we work with the family they're going to. Because one of the biggest things is as part of our matching process in the initial stages, we have the host home family meet with the discharge family and ask questions and talk and start to build their relationship, because we've seen that when the host home family and the discharge family can build a close, strong relationship, it's an easier transition for that kid to go home. And then also it becomes, in time, that natural support, where generally, like if a kid is in a foster home, they go back to their bio home, like you don't hear from them or anything until maybe they're older and they call you. But in our case, when the kids go home, their parents still reach out to our host home parents, like if they have questions or concerns or even just to check in. And it's built in like a natural support for them once that kid goes home.
I was actually going to ask that if the host family or the therapeutic foster family is a support for them. That's actually really, really good. I imagine that goes a long way, because a lot of times, the child that's in the placement is doing a lot of really hard work. And when his home that he's going back home to isn't doing that same level, it can kind of not match up when he finally transitions back. So that's really good that they're smart enough to realize that you still have to support the family.
Right. And that's the biggest piece, because you can equip the child or the youth with all of the skills necessary, but if there are no changes made in their home and the parent is reacting the exact same way, the kid's going to come back into care because they're going to resort back to what they used to do, because the skills aren't going to help because the parents aren't trained to work with those. And so that's why it's so important in having the discharge parents. And I keep saying discharge because sometimes it's their bio parents. Sometimes it's they're going to a traditional foster home, or sometimes kin family is located and they're going there. But so whoever that person is, them having those skills, they feel more confident enough to parent that kid coming home.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know why I have not heard of your program. I mean, where have I been? I don't know. No, I tucked that away. I tucked that away tight. So tell me a little bit more about the residential program that you're known for.
Right. Okay. So I want to make sure that I have everything. Like I said, once again, the residential program, that is the heart of our organization. And so that one looks at all aspects of training for all of the youth. So from like when they get there to when they leave, what the residential program is committed to doing is like beginning the relationship, getting to know the kid, and focusing on the trauma that youth may have been through. And what I mean by that is they're a sanctuary agency. And so with that, their approach in working with all of the youth is really about not what's wrong with you, like what's happened to you. And so the goal of their overall treatment in the program is to look at what may have happened to get them to where they are, and to try to find a way, depending on what they're dealing with, to be able to deal with that in the present moment and be able to move past that, so they have the ability to transition also back home. The goal, and they've moved to, I mean, gosh, Harborcreek has been around for 100 years, this residential facility. And so where it used to focus on like more juvenile justice type things, the goal has switched to being more mental health. And so there's a psychiatric component where they've even built in, oh my gosh, the amazing expressive therapies. I'm sorry, I'm so excited, I'm just figuring with my hands. But they have the expressive therapies for these kids. And so they have like a writing therapy, there's a music therapy program, there's an art therapy program. But what they did is, in looking and researching how each kid applies what they learn, or just how their learning just differs, realizing not all kids have the ability to talk through therapy. And so that was the initial reason why they went towards things like expressive therapies. So, I mean, we've had kids write songs, different art pieces that they've done, even have entered in different contests around the community, but just a whole lot of the focus and looking at that kid's trauma and how it's affected them, and then being able to help them move past that.
Yes,
sorry, that was a lot.
Well, it is a lot, but unfortunately, I think that we are all discovering that mental health plays a large role, unfortunately, in those that are incarcerated as you start to get older. That when we're not taking care of the holistic mind and body, that's when things start going wrong. And mental health, when we're taking care of the mental health issues through therapies or medications or the things that we have in our toolbox, that those things can be preventative work. So,
right, yes,
you know, if we're already in a residential facility as a youth, we need some preventative work. So that's really good that you are doing other things other than talk therapy, because not all children and youth want to do talk therapy. So that's really exciting to hear. I mean, 100 years. Did you say that Harborcreek Youth Services is 100 years old?
It's more than 100 years. I believe it's like closer to like 116-ish. So
wow.
Like it's been a while. It's yes, because they celebrated the 110 years right before I got there. So like close to 116. But yeah, well over 100 years.
So
that they've been providing services.
Do they do both male and female at Harborcreek Youth Services?
In the residential facility, no. But in the community programs, which is in the CRR program and the MST program, they work with women or girls. But yeah, the residential program only works with males.
Okay, and then what is the age range that you guys are working with?
Okay, it is 10 to 18. Because there are 5 different units, and we actually have one unit that was recently, the very first unit out there was recently converted to all single bedrooms. And that's our Conway unit, which works our youngest youth.
So the youngest youth have single rooms. And so
yes.
How many kids can you house in general in a single unit?
There's room total for 70 kids altogether in the 5 units. 4 of the 5 are specifically for psychiatric, and I know they're in the process of converting some of the other units for the older youth into single bedrooms, because that seems to work better. So some of the youth do better when they have their own space. And
I imagine some do really well having a partner,
yes.
a roommate too. I guess you'd have to figure that out, and I'm sure that they're very good at doing that.
Each frontline staff counselor, they're assigned the kids coming in. So they have their own group of kids that they work with that they help build too. So in addition to finding out more about their trauma, they're learning and teaching and modeling for these kids, like how to live life just in general. Like when you're looking at a trauma and you're looking at the resilience of a lot of these kids who are coming through the system, they need that one adult person. And so a lot of the counselors who are at Harborcreek now play that role for a lot of those youth coming through. Excellent.
So each unit has a different staff person.
Each unit has a manager, assistant manager, specific therapists that are assigned to only work with the youth in that unit, and then their own main counselors, and then they have some other counselors that may like go to the different units like to help out, just to keep ratios intact.
Right.
But each unit has their own.
And so how do you take care of schooling when you're in residential at Harborcreek Youth Service?
Prior to COVID, we actually have a campus on site. So the kids would actually just get up in the morning, have breakfast with their unit, and then go over to the school and do their schooling in a classroom. And the classrooms are not necessarily by unit. So generally, they try to keep same developmental age groups together. So then they're all working on the same things. And so the curriculum is your traditional core curriculum, so that they have the ability, the older ones, to go through and graduate with their diploma. And then even after that, if they are over 18 and still in the program, there is a work experience program for those youth who they can learn. They're bringing in a welding program, but they have a woodworking program. They have a grounds maintenance program, but where they're learning skills to be able to utilize once they leave there.
That's awesome to hear that they are working on those transition services. because I'm going to assume that a lot of these kids have IEPs. And
Yes.
so that's part of that IEP process, is making sure that we are supporting them in their transitioning to adulthood. So that's phenomenal that Harborcreek Youth Services has got it all underneath one roof. And
we are definitely trying. In regards to the schooling piece, what they've invested in, or just overall, is like a developmental trauma model. And it's just like looking at different state-of-the-art techniques like TRE and some trauma release exercises, and progressive counting. So those are just different techniques that the therapists use, but they are also looking at the impact of trauma on the actual development of the brain, where the youth all came in and were initially tested to see if they had any concerns or issues in regards to reading disabilities, which the majority of the youth who did come through qualified to receive dyslexia remediation classes. And so we have staff and teachers trained on a method that the name is not coming to me right now, but it's a method system.
The Barton system.
Yes, it is. Yes, they are trained on. Thank you. It's been a long couple of days, but trained on the Barton system to help improve the reading level of those kids. And so in improving that reading level, we can actually see on the therapeutic side where things are improving in regards to the cognitive piece of processing, some of the things that they're able to do with. So they're working on a study about putting that together and how the trauma affects that true development.
No, that's huge, because I know that with the families that I work with, that's a huge component, is we have these high school students that are reading on a really low level because of having so much trauma in their life.
Right.
A lot of them are in sanctuary-based situations and learning, but the fact that you even have the dyslexia component and working on that early reading that they need to improve upon before they're an adult, so they have that foot up, and it's all underneath one roof once again, is huge, because I know it's very hard for families to get that training elsewhere.
Yes.
That's probably one of the most highly sought after services that people are looking for, is that Barton system, and it's really hard to find.
It is
really phenomenal that it's underneath one roof. So do you want to touch on MST therapy real quick for me?
The MST, Multisystem Therapy, is our in-home intensive therapy. So what they do is it's what we call community-based. So all of the therapy components are done in the home. The therapists work with kids ages 12 to 17. Once again, it's a program that works with males and females. And the youth is already living in their home, or they're getting ready, or they just came back from placement. But generally, they're not in under a court order or anything like that. These are all families who volunteer to be a part of this program. So what the MST program does is they just deliver intensive home-based services, just based on what that family needs. And so it's a lot of focus on equipping the parents with the tools that they need to be able to work with the youth. And so that's a big piece of what they do. Once again, and they work with all parts of that child's life. So if there are issues with school, they're working with the school. Parents, they trying to help the families also build that natural support system around them. They work with them on that. They are available, 24/7. You can call and one of the therapists will pick up to be able to help. But yeah, they generally, as long as the youth are able to be maintained in their own home and they're willing to participate, MST will get involved to be able to help any way that they can.
And I think that is the big component, the big thing that you just said. As long as the youth is willing to participate, that's a big component, because if they're not, then you're looking at something a little bit more structured, and as residential would be.
Right. So sometimes, but even the whole participation piece could really depend on the therapist that they end up matched with. There are some amazing therapies, especially in the MSC program, and I'll say in my program, where they have the ability to reach these kids on these different levels to get them to want to participate. And so a lot of times therapy-wise, and the success of that therapy is, I guess all the time based on that relationship between the kid and the therapist.
Don't I know that firsthand? So for information for our families, if they feel that any of these programs are something that they would like to look more into or have even more knowledge on and talk to you about, how do they get a hold of you?
Okay, for me, they can actually just go to, we have a website. It's hys-erie.org, and it actually has all of the programs listed on there and all of our contact information there. But if they don't want to go to internet and they really just want to talk to me like really, really fast, they can just dial 899-7664 extension 333. And that goes right to my desk to talk to me about foster care.
Goes right to your desk. Okay, so you have Facebook, Harborcreek Youth Services?
Yes, we do. I don't know how to get there. I think if you just search Harborcreek Youth Services, we do have a Facebook page that has all of the information there. They actually also post like the happenings that are going on. If you'd like, I think there's even a way you can set up to receive a monthly newsletter that they're going to start sending out on just the happenings at Harborcreek.
Perfect. And what we'll do is I can email out that calendar when we email the Survey Monkey that I'm going to beg you all to take at the end. So we will definitely do that, and then they'll get a start of that calendar. Also, I had a question about if your child is in school and, you know, as a parent, you're definitely searching for help. Can the school make referrals, or can the parents make referrals? Who makes the referrals to you?
Okay, for MST, the school has the ability to start the referral, but generally the families have to be a part of that. For my program, generally though, the referrals come from our funding source, which is CCBH, which is the Children's Behavioral Health here in Erie County. And so because the youth has to meet a higher level of care. And so once they meet that level of care and they're approved, then our referrals come from CCBH. And so it's so, which I apologize for those of you who may be thinking this, you can't just call and place your kid into our program. There's actually a long process. Well, not a long, sorry. There's actually a process to be able to get them into our program, yes.
And the school is involved in that process a little bit too, right? Because that's going to be the stricter behavior health that they're reporting.
Yes, the schools can be. They may not be involved like when the initial referral is made, but once the youth comes into our program, the schools are invited to all of the meetings, and we have the ability to like go into the schools and work with the teachers on the kids' behaviors.
Perfect. And then the residential, who makes the referral for the residential?
The families can make them themselves or the funding sources. And so, and with that one, it's any, because the residential facility works with all counties in Pennsylvania. And so they work with all different mental health organizations. So whichever one's paying, they're the ones usually making the initial referrals.
Perfect. And Ms. Tiana, can you think of anything else that you need to tell me about Harborcreek Youth Services? Because we covered a lot.
That was a lot. So my first thing I'd like to say is just for more information is to just look at the website. A lot of the answers that you may be looking for will be listed there. And then the other thing is, if you've thought about foster parenting, if you've ever considered it, if you know someone who might be thinking about it, just have them give me a call. Because we do need, there's a shortage of foster parents, not only here in Erie County for our youth, but across the country. But in Erie County, we have kids who have to stay in group homes or things like that because there's nothing available. So my last statement is, if you're thinking about it, if you've ever thought about it, just give me a call and see if there's a way that I can help you become one of our foster parents.
Yep, I have to tell you, I am a 5-year foster parent veteran, and it was the most challenging and rewarding experience. So if you have room in your heart and in your home and you would like to give it a try, I would give Tiana a call and get more information. And once again, you can find her information on the Harborcreek Youth Services webpage. Google her, or what's that phone number again to your desk?
814-899-7664, extension 333.
Okay, Ms. Tiana, thank you so much for coming on today for Wonderful Wednesdays with Wendy. And
thank you, Wendy.
I and look forward to being able to share this information with our families. And also that CRR program, I'm going to stash that in the back when we have some kids that are coming to us and families in crisis. That's some good information. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.